All right, so welcome back to Unveiling the Matrix. As I said yesterday in the video that I uploaded, I've been having a lot of issues and technical difficulties and just, ultimately minor things, but they're it's frustrating, but just gonna roll with it. So what I'm gonna say prior is that I'm not gonna do trigger warnings. I don't really agree with trigger warnings. I think that in order to heal, you have to deal with things head on. And I think that as a society, we've been ultimately brainwashed into thinking that it's safer to bury our heads in the sand and to ignore, what is really going on. And so I'm not going to do any type of warnings or anything on in my podcast. I am going to say that over the next number of weeks, we're going to get into essay topics. Not that we haven't already, but a little more. And honestly, the essay is the easier things to comprehend about what I'm going to say about what happened to me. And there's going to be things about rituals, drugs, essay and groups, even extraterrestrial beings that were involved and aware of what was going on. It's a lot. There's a lot. And so I'm just saying this, prefacing that if you feel like you can't handle it, don't watch my podcast. I am going to be cautious about the words I'm using. I'm actually thinking of switching my podcast name from Unveiling the Matrix to just Unveiling, because I think the words the Matrix is triggering algorithms. Now, the algorithms are created by the Matrix, so they're using it to further their agenda. I'm going to try my best to be mindful that the words, try to use words that will not trigger the algorithms, because I'm already experiencing having my stuff censored. Okay, so let's dive right in. I mentioned that I was starting to be essayed from the time I was born, like a baby. My father was abusing me. I didn't go into other pedo rings until I was about 5. I wasn't essayed by other men until about the age of 5, because kids that young will often die when they're being essayed that young, because an adult male anatomy does not fit into, you get what I'm saying? And they know that. Not that they care about if we live or die, that's not the issue, but the issue is that they want to have as many different options at the pedo menu as they can. They don't necessarily want to dispose of the children that quickly. Okay, so what happened was that I was being solely abused by my father up until that point, and I really despise calling him my father or dad, so I call him Rick. As far as I remember, there wasn't another person. It's possible that there were other family members, because there was consistent incest in his side of the family between family members. So Rick, his brothers, it was known in the family. And I'll get more into that side of the family, because I think it's going to help people who have issues like this in their family to understand their own situation more. It was known in the family that they had abused the sisters, or at least some of the sisters, and then some of the sisters covered for the brothers. As far as I remember, but I still get memories that resurface. I really can say pretty confidently that I don't think any of the other family members were abusing me, because also Rick was very, what do I want to say, territorial over me as his property kind of thing. Not that he didn't send me to be abused by other men, but I also think that the purpose of sending me to those other men was power and the ability to access men who were more powerful than him. He was if it's giving them a expensive gift. In return, what was he getting from those men? Do you get what I'm saying? When I was 5 was the first time that I was forced. So up until the age of 5, I was being hate the word fondled. It's such a disgusting word, but like, okay, that everybody understands what I'm saying. That was happening from him to me. Up until that point, he had not forced me to perform any acts on him. When I was 5, I will never fucking forget this memory ever. So I was watching TV with my sister. So my sister was just like in the living room right out. We didn't have like a huge house. Like she was just right out there, which was like just down the hall from his room. So he called me into his room and he had a soda with him, and this will be pertinent in a minute. He was acting really weird, creepy, but also his eyes were lit up. You know what, like when somebody's on ecstasy and their pupils get huge? He wasn't on ecstasy, but that's what it was. Or like a predator about to like have a kill. That's what was happening in his internal environment. Like I could feel that energy was happening, but I mean at that I was 5. Like how do you comprehend these types of things? Like I knew when I was a baby, like I was very colicky, they called me, as a baby. I was screaming, crying. I never slept well. They had to like put me into a car and drive me to go to sleep. Well, now I understand that was because I was being SA'd when I was getting my diaper changed. So like I was in pain. I was crying because I was in pain. And how no doctor, like I think he was very careful not to leave evidence. Do you know what I'm saying? He would just get himself off while he was touching me. Okay, so as a baby they called me colicky, and that's the reason, is because I was in constant pain. Like it was very uncomfortable and it hurt very badly because it's a sensitive area. And then he would intentionally do inappropriate things in front of other people. I think not only was he training the other people around me to accept those types of behaviors, but he was also seeing how far he could go and seeing what could he do before I would out him. When I was 5 is when he called me into his room and was all creepy and weird. The lights were off. It was during the day. There was sun coming through the windows, but the shades were drawn. You know, so it was like that kind of lighting in there. I remember just being like annoyed. Why are you making me come in here? This is weird. I remember thinking that in my head. And I remember saying, I just want to go out there and watch my show. Like, why? I don't like this. And he's like, once you do this, then I'll let you go. And so he had me, and mind you, I'm 5. So he had like a full-size soda can, and he was making me put not just my mouth, not just my lips, but my teeth around the little rim that goes around the soda can. He was trying to make me do that. Now my mouth wasn't big enough to do that. He was getting pissed because I could only get, like, I put my bottom teeth underneath the one lip, and I was trying to do it because I didn't know what he was doing, and I just wanted to get away from him. Like, I never really liked him, although on some level I wanted his approval as like a daughter. Do you know what I mean? But like, I never liked his energy. I never liked to be alone with him. When it was me and my sister, I knew I was kind of safe because he wasn't abusing her, and I'll get into that in a minute. So I could only get it like over the tab, and he was getting pissed. I started crying at this point because I'm like, I can't do it. It hurts. When you're extending your jaw like that, it hurts. So then he starts getting pissed, and he like forces my jaw open, and he's like, you have to do it, you cannot leave. So he finally like overextends my jaw. I literally thought it was gonna dislocate because it was, I don't know how. I think at one point I heard a pop. He just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally like I got my teeth over that. So then he's like, just leave your mouth that far open, and then he made me close my eyes, and then he stuck himself in my mouth. I remember him getting pissed because apparently my teeth were hurting him. And so he made me put my lips over my teeth. And then it was, he just did what he wanted, and then he was done. And then, I just had like tears rolling down my face. My jaw hurt so bad. I remember just feeling like this sickness in the pit of my stomach. I just felt so sick and so disgusted. And I knew it was wrong from the beginning. I knew what he was doing was wrong, and I was fucking furious. I just remember like this rage coming into me in that moment. I remember afterwards he started threatening me. He knew how much I loved my sister, and he knew that I would protect her no matter what. So he would threaten her. So he would say to me, if you ever tell anybody about this, I'm going to essay your sister. And I believed him. You know, after what he just did, I believed him. And the threats got progressively worse because, I mean, at some point you become numb to hearing, I'm going to do it to your sister too, you know? And then you're just like, fine, just do it, you know? Like, stop threatening it. Just fucking do it. And then the threats got worse. I remember in that moment, even as a 5-year-old, I remember I was mouthing off to him and I said, I will tell everybody. And what you did is wrong and this is not okay. And I promise you, I will not let this go and I will let everybody know. I was 5 and I was saying that to him. I saw the fear go through his face for a second. And then he was like, I will kill your sister if you ever say a word to anybody. And that shut me up. And I didn't know the level that he was willing to go at that point. I didn't know how dark of a person he was up until that point. So after that, he just sent me right out to go watch TV. So that was the kind of essay that I experienced then after 5, or similar things like that. And then the first time that he actually graped me was, I think I was between 6 and 7. I was probably pretty close to 7 years old. And I remember my mom was gone. She went to a women's retreat and she was gone for, I want to say, at least a week. And I think she even stayed a few extra days because she was in like North Carolina or something. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I think it was like something like that, where she was like gone out of town for an extended period. We were alone with him and it was the same type of thing, but this time I think I was playing outside with the kids in the neighborhood and he called just me in. My sister tried to come in too and he was like, no, you can't come in. So he made me go into his room again and he had a water bed. He like bent me over and made me look away. And it was excruciatingly painful. It didn't last very long, thank God. And I just remember like it was extremely painful because not only was he tearing things, but he was too large for my child anatomy. It ended. I remember I felt so sick to my stomach, like I couldn't move. I felt so much shame, like I was humiliated. I felt like it's almost like I fell into like the deepest, darkest depression right then. And I couldn't move. I felt so sick. It was almost to the point of like I was in shock where I couldn't even properly like cry and release emotion about it. It was just, it was shocking. It was like I didn't even know what that was at that point. Like I didn't know, what S was. And so it was just very shocking. Like I just knew that it was extremely painful and I was asking him to stop at first and he was like, shut up, and like kind of put a pillow over my head. I remember I thought I was going to die because I couldn't breathe under the pillow. Like he didn't want to see my face. Afterwards, he just like took me into my room that I shared with my sister and put me in the bed. And I was bleeding terribly. And I remember because I fell into like such a deep, dark depression, I literally just like laid in my bed. I wanted all the lights off, nobody to talk or touch me or anything. Like I remember I just put the covers over me and I just remember feeling like I just want to sink into a deep, dark hole and die. Like that's how I felt. I stayed like that until my mom got home. Okay, I think I'm going to end the episode here. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.